And welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make your own custom floating islands in Minecraft by hand. Now the rest of the floating islands that I've made tutorials on, I've used World Edit and Voxel Sniper, but I actually saw a comment requesting that I do some more natural things by hand because I know a lot of you guys don't have access to commands. So this is going to be a lot more challenging because we are doing it by hand, but I hope that I can show you some just general design techniques that will help you be able to build some awesome floating islands for yourself in the future. So what we need to start by doing is just pillaring up to the height that we want our floating island to be at. I'm just gonna pick a random height here, but if you're making this on yourself, it is important to try to figure out where you want your floating island to be in just correlation with the rest of your build. So what we need to start off here is just build a centerpiece like so, and then we're going to take this bottom block here and start branching it up in all four directions, and as we go up we're just going to do different heights, just alternating between 2 and 3 blocks long. I think that looks good there. And then we're going to do the same thing here, and it is important to mix it up. We do not want this to be the same on all four sides. This is an organics build, and that will make it look just really geometric and unnatural. So I think that's good here. And now onto the last side here, we are just going to keep bringing it up like so, just mixing up the heights that we choose for each leg to give them all a unique feel. And onto the last build here, we're just gonna pick up a height here, and something I will show you is I've used different heights to start branching out from. This gives it a really random feel and a nice detail at the base of your island where they all come together. So now that we have these here, what we're gonna do is we're gonna get the general outline shape for the top of your island, and this doesn't have to be complete sphere. In fact, I wouldn't recommend it. So what I do is I just kind of randomly jut out blocks, and whatever pattern comes about when I'm done, that's what I stick with for the rest of the build. You'll see here that I'm just kind of going out in just random directions and just connecting them all up. This is the technique I'd recommend for you. It'd be really easy to take a step back and try to make it perfect, but when working with organics, that's honestly one of the worst things you can do. And now that we have this here, what I'm going to recommend is that you now do the exact same thing in the middle of your build, but we are going to edit this later. This just gives you a little bit more structure and more of just a concrete shell for you to work with, so that you are putting limits on the amount of space that you have to eyeball for the design. And now once we're done here, what we're going to do is we're going to start filling in the base of the island. So what we're going to do is we're just going to kind of take this diagonal here and branch it out till we are in the base of the floating island where we just made that simple outline. And then we are just going to fill in the rest of the blocks like so. And you'll see here we already have a really nice shape of the island. So we're just going to continue this trend going around filling in these blocks here until we reach that second layer that we just put in. And once we're done with this, we're going to go around and do it on all four sides. You'll see here that this is already looking really good. So we're just going to replicate this over on all the same sides. Now every side is different because of the organic shape that we have created. So it's good to try to not go back over and replicate it over. Just do it uniquely for every side of your build, and it will turn out good in the end. And if you're a little bit new to this, you can just fill it in like I just did and then add in a little bit more depth once you're done with it like so, just to kind of break up the textures a little bit. I'll point out here that this looks really uniform here. You can see that just the 4 2x2 pillars. So what we need to do is we need to break that up because it looks just really geometric. So what we're going to do is we're going to get rid of a block here, add one here, and then that makes it look a lot different and a lot better. So now that we have this side here done, we're going to move on to the third side, and then you'll see that I'm just going to add in a little bit more depth like this, and then we're going to connect the whole thing up to the top here once again. And I really love building floating islands. It's one of my favorite things to do in Minecraft because it is very simple with the voxel sniper commands. If you haven't checked out those tutorials that I've done, I would really recommend you do. I think they're well done, and it's definitely a good building technique to have in your arsenal when you are building for people. It's very easy to impress server owners if you're trying out for a builder rank because they are able to be done very quickly, but they still look really good. And now onto the last side here. We are just going to finish filling this in like we have on all of the sides. And I am trying to do this build very quickly for the sake of the video. If you're doing this by yourself for the first time, don't expect it to go this fast. Organics like this do take time and they are very difficult to get down, but I have done this build multiple times, so I kind of already know the general style and feel I am going for. Once we have this shape done here, I'm just going through and just editing it a little bit. You'll see here that we have just a very dominant edge here, so I'm going to go through and actually fill this out with more blocks like so, just to give it a little bit more thickness. I think that just works really well, and I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing on this side. And you'll see that that actually happens a lot in the build, so it's good to just go over and just kind of make sure that it just has a nice rolling shape to it and doesn't always just jet out in a weird shape. So now that we're done with that, we have the base of our floating islands. Now it's good to just fly around and see what areas we could just touch up a little bit, but overall I think this build is looking very, very nice. Now that we have all that there, we're going to actually start and fill in the top part of our island. So what I do is I just quickly fill in the gaping hole we have here with the stone, and then we're gonna start using the grass on top to start making our small landscape. So just place the last few blocks of stone here, and what I just generally do is I just place over the exact edge here. Don't worry, we are going to use that coarse dirt to help integrate it a little bit more into the stone so we don't get too abrupt of an edge there, because I do know that that would look very weird. And now what we're going to do is we're actually going to add in what we're going to use as the second layer for our hill, because it is important to just have a little hill on top just so it isn't completely flat. I found that to be a really good way to detail it. So I've just kind of thrown in a random outline there, and we're just going to fill it in 2 blocks tall. You can make this completely solid, but I'm electing to leave parts of it hollow because it is covered up so you can't see it, so it doesn't make the build look any worse. And just for the sake of time, I do think that it isn't a necessity when doing a build like this. So just rounding the last corner here, filling in all of the grass blocks. And once we're done with that, we're going to take a step back, and you'll see that it does look very weird having this just abrupt line of change between the grass blocks and the stone. So what we're actually going to go do is just fly around and try to, as randomly as possible, place in coarse dirt. Now, I get placing stuff in random can be very difficult because we are humans and naturally we try to pattern match. So just fly around and put as little thought into it as possible. I try to mix up placing 2 blocks in 1 block, and that's just the best method I've found. It is personal preference, whatever method you think works well for you, as long as it's quick and ends up looking good in the end. So I'm just gonna make a couple more passes here, filling in just a bunch of coarse dirt wherever I see fit, just trying to keep it somewhat random, but still just working well with the rest of the build. And you will note that I am not taking a step back to look at it yet. That's just because I just want to just fly around and just keep spamming it everywhere, slowly working our way lower and lower down the build. And then once it's all said and done, we'll take a step back and see if we're happy with the way it turned out. So if we come here, you'll notice that this just harsh coarse dirt, like here, this isn't good. We have a straight line there, so we're gonna just kind of texture that in. And here we have another straight line. So I'm gonna go ahead and fill in both of these blocks here, just to kind of make that work better. So you'll note that this coarse dirt has a much darker texture than the dirt up top. So we're actually gonna go through and do the same thing to the dirt on top of this build, just working in a little bit of coarse dirt wherever we see fit. Like so. And it is very hard to get this splatter technique right, so if you don't get it right on your first couple tries, don't worry about it. It is a very difficult thing. And now for the last little bit, we are just going to go through and add in a little bit more of that coarse dirt texture just all over the place to make sure we really have a nice fade in from that dark grayscale stone into the dirt. Now once we're done with that, I think we can start decorating the base of the island here. And what we're going to use for this is we're going to use clay. So what I do is actually just go around and replace most of the blocks at the base with clay, and then slowly start to texture it up as we move farther up the build. So the first couple layers, just go through, make it easy on yourself, don't worry about splattering and texturing the stone, just go through and replace all of them with clay. And then once you get to about this height, it really depends on how big your build is, you just want the tip of it to be clay, and then you start to just integrate it with just splattering it all around into the rest of your build. Again, there's no right way to do this, just try to make it look as random as possible, but I understand that that can be very difficult. It took me a long time to learn how to do this properly. Now that we have this here, we're just going to add in a couple more, and I think, just take a step back, I think that this looks really good, except I think we should get rid of this clay block here and maybe add in one more up top there. I think that'll look a little bit better. And just fly around here, I think that that's looking really good. Now up top here, what we're going to do is we're actually going to take leaves and we're going to drape them down across just the island here, slowly twisting. Just follow the edges of your island. Your island's going to have a shape where that it does have these dominant edges that allow you to droop these vines across the edge, and just mix it up between 1 block and 2 block tall just towers of vines here. You'll see I have 2 blocks here and just 1 block flowing here. Wherever it's appropriate, just use the vines to your discretion. And I'm actually bringing this all the way down to the base of the island just to give that really extra element of detail. And then when we come up here, we're just gonna mix it up with the other side of the leaves. And then we're actually just going to go around the whole island and do this on all sides. This is a really awesome detail that you don't see me doing in my videos with commands because there isn't really a command for it. But if you're taking the time to do an island like this by hand, I would definitely recommend doing something like this because it does look really cool. And then just last step, we're going to add in 1 more vine drooping down here over to this section of the cobblestone. I'm actually just going to bring this out 1 block. Would that look good or off? I think that'll look off. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to break that clay. It's definitely okay to break the stone block. So just taking another look around, just looking where we could add in a couple more vines. I think I'm going to help integrate this like so into the vines here. And it's good to try to not overdo it, but you definitely want to go heavy on the vines because that's what's really bringing a lot of life to the build. And looking around it, I really like the way it turned out, but I am going to add a little bit more height to this part here and bring down the clay 1 block there. There we go, and just add 1 more there. I think that looks really good. Now it's time to detail the top. What we're going to do is we're actually going to use a trick that I use to make custom big trees. I've made a tutorial on this just called Basic Custom Trees for Beginners. If you like the design I use here, I am showing you it in the video, but I do have a full tutorial on it if you want to check it out. So what you do is you have stone blocks go up 6 tall, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then you spam bone meal on the sapling until you get a big tree, which we unfortunately got the smallest big tree possible. So I'm just going to go through really quickly and break this and all of the leaves. Sorry for the inconvenience there, but it is luck based. Sometimes you are going to get unlucky and have just a small version of the big tree spawn into your world. That's okay, you just have to take the time to remove the tree and try again. And even if you don't get the best looking big tree, you can customize it to your preference and hopefully it will all turn out right in the end. And I am actually going to swap this to a cobblestone block because I feel like it being clean stone might have something to do with it, but I actually don't know. I've always used cobblestone, so I'm just going to use it here. Then we place the sapling and then spam it with the bone meal and have our fingers crossed and hope we get a good big tree. And it looks like we have. So we have a nice big tree here. and I think that this is such a good tree, we're just going to use this tree. So what we're going to do now to customize this tree is we're just going to fly around, slowly having vines droop down on all sides of it, just wherever we see fit. This is just a nice detail to just make it look like you took the time to customize the tree, when in reality it's just a big tree that you've added a lot of vines to. Nice building trick, would definitely recommend it to any beginning builders that are trying to get just a next level advanced build as like a custom tree without having to learn some of the details to make one. So see here that this kind of has a nice weeping willow design to it. I'm going to go ahead and replace some of these logs with the new 6-sided logs that were introduced in 1.13 just to give it a little bit more dynamic of a trunk. And we're going to go through and replace all these open just branches in the tree with a 6-sided log to just make it look a little bit better. Now that we've done that, it's time to work on the lowest level of vegetation. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to place down a lot of grass blocks, just the actual tall grass, not the grass blocks themselves. And then we're just going to mix in a couple fern blocks, just trying to make it random, really decorating up this island. And once we're done placing all these fern blocks, we're going to go through and place this white flower here, which I think is a very subtle flower, but still adds a lot of color to the build. And once we've done that, we're going to take a step back, and that's it, guys. That's how you make your own floating islands in Minecraft by hand using no commands, and they still turn out really good. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope that you now feel inspired to make some of these for yourself. If you do want to make floating islands on a large scale to just make a full custom map with them, I really would recommend you getting your hands on commands because it will really speed up the process. I have a full playlist dedicated to that sort of thing, and I would really recommend you check it out. But without further ado, that's all I wanted to cover in this video, so thank you all for watching. I will see you in the next video.